Hi, Paul. How you doing? All right, I've got your post up here. I want to address your writing, and we're going to look at your sketches and kind of decide where we're at and where we need to be. Sound good? Looking glass technology. That's neat stuff. It's kind of like a projection hologram. Kind of neat stuff. It's really cool. And those of you who are watching along here, take a look at that. That looking glass technology. It's kind of like a self-enclosed holograph. So it's like a box that it's a system where you have a box and you can create a hologram that resides within the box instead of in a hologram, like a projected screen hologram. So take a look at that. That's interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Paul. Here are the shape explorations I popped out. We hadn't decided on a picture brand. That's okay. The brand itself at this point is irrelevant. So I kept them as generic as possible. Essentially, I was going for ultra modern aesthetic with current era technology. You know, in the deep dive immersion, you don't really have to limit yourself to current technology. We can kind of delve into exploring um, uh, technologies that maybe aren't 100% usable by today's standards. But the idea here is that we really get thinking, we really kind of decipher the inherent problems and address them accordingly. Um, Interface surfaces will be medium-sized multi-touch and display surfaces. The globe on top would be, okay. Globe on top is a great place for a 3D logo. Yeah. All right. That's excellent, right? This is all good so far, but we're kind of missing the main point. And especially when we jump to the sketches. We jump to the sketches and I see that right now you're concentrating on the design of the actual configurator. Okay. And that's not really what we're after. We're more after designing the functions of the configurator. It doesn't matter what the configurator looks like. We're not here to design a vehicle configurator. We're here to change the way folks interact with the car buying process. So right now, through your research, you should, through your research at this point, you should have deciphered some of the inherent problems with the current car buying process. And I think the biggest problem therein is high pressure salespeople and being pressured into buying features and functions that you just don't need on the vehicle. So one of the biggest problems with car buying is that the salespeople are commissioned, right? So that being said, they're going to try to sell you as much as they can, right? It's in their interest to oversell you. That is not human-centered design. That's a process that's not considering the needs of the user. That's the car buyer. Right now, the whole process is to the advantage of the salesperson and the not the manufacturer, the a dealership, right? Remember Saturn, those cars, Saturn? Remember those salespeople? That was a neat approach. Okay, those salespeople were not commissioned, so presumably it was no pressure walking in to buy a Saturn because you weren't getting pressure to buy things that you may not possibly need, right? I mean, my wife and I have been in situations where we've walked into a dealership and just heard just so many layers of BS where I've actually walked out a couple of times saying, "Hey, look, you're not out for my interest. You're obviously trying to pad this sale so you can make as much money as you can," and I don't appreciate that, right? And I think that's the whole sentiment behind car buying process that we're after. We want to change that. We want to change the way folks buy cars. All right. So again, what are we doing in this assignment? We're not designing a configurator. We're not designing an interface. We're changing the way people drive cars. I'm sorry, purchase cars, right? And in doing so, we have to decide how we're going to create this configurator, right? So right now, all of your ideas are the same. The only thing that's changing here is the shape of the configurator, right? So what we need to do for Sunday submission is you need to give 3 different ideas for the functionality of a configurator. Okay, so for example, this is Doug's, and he's your teammate, right? So you can get in there and talk to him and get his understanding as well. But okay, so here's the first one. This one is a podium with with hand gestures to create the configurator. This one's a screen touch, and this one's a holographic projector, right? So these are 3 really good ideas. But what we need to do here is we need to take this a step further and say, where do we go with this? what can we do? The main things is we want to eliminate the salesperson. We want to eliminate the finance person. So we could theoretically build those things right into our kiosk, right into our configurator, right? We could even do things like once the config. So the financial calculator I'm talking about is give your configurator the ability to calculate, resale values based on the amount of miles you have, the amount of time you have, blue book values, calculate, your monthly payments if you put X amount down, or if you don't put anything down, or you see what I'm saying? So we approach it like this. We're going to eliminate the salesperson as well as the finance person. So what's left is we can actually eliminate at some point actually even test driving the car. By maybe even incorporating some sort of a drive simulator. So when you're done configuring your car, you send it to the simulator room. The report generates and populates the software with all of your information, like your tires, your transmission. You can get in the simulator, 360 screen. You can simulate everything you want to do, like drive in a mountain situation, drive on ice, drive on wet roads, et cetera, right? So really think, Paul, about how we can take this to the next step, how we can really change the car buying process by addressing the biggest issues in the car buying process that are defined by your target audience. This has a lot to do with creating empathy. And really, it's going to come down to research. What are the biggest problems associated with the car buying process today? Okay, and that's what we're after, Paul. We're after addressing the way we buy cars. We're not after designing a new configurator. I hope that makes sense. That's the difference between design and design thinking. In design, we say, okay, we're going to design this product or this process or whatever, right? That's design. Design thinking is saying, okay. Or deep dive immersion design thinking is saying, okay, I need to design this, but I need to look way deeper into the underlying problems. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, Paul. So in your final submission for this week, you definitely want to do that. You want to get in there and show us the functionality of each of your ideas instead of just showing the way they're going to look. Show us exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to function, the features that can be included to address some of the current problems in the car buying process. Make sense? All right. If you have any questions at all, I know I just threw a lot at you, and definitely feel free to go through some of these other videos, and you're sure to pick up things. They're all mostly generally the same format, is just reinforcing the fact that we are changing. We're designing a change in the way folks interact with the car buying process. We're not just designing a new car configurator. Okay? Makes sense? All right, Paul, thanks. Again, any questions at all, please let me know. Thank you, sir.